Okay, so most people got invert pretty well. The one mistake that I saw was this is more of a careless error. It was blue is 225 minus B. And what happens is then if you end up with a very large value for B, then this new B ends up being negative if you don't subtract by the right amount. And it's kind of interesting to see exactly what happens here. This is student 13, so if I run this and then run invert, so here is where that blue value was so big that it went negative and it just kind of ends up being white. You get some very weird effects then when you get it's called overflow when your values end up being not what they're supposed to be. So the way to fix that weird effect is just be careful about that 255 there. And that comes out much better. Then the next thing, with lighten and darken, most everybody did okay, just fine with darken. You know, you just multiply by some number that is less than 1. I had someone specifically ask, if this is an int, how can I multiply it by a double? Why does that work? Well, if I take 255 in a calculator, the integer 255, and I multiply it by something slightly less than 1. Say I multiply it by 0.75. It gives me 191.25. Now if I do it exactly like this, where I say times equals, Java then knows that this r is an int. And what I'm really doing is just going to do the multiplication and then discard everything past the decimal. However, if you do something like r is equal to r times 0.75, Java complains. It says when it sees an integer multiplied by something that is a double, it'll convert the int to a double. And when I say it converts the int, the left-hand side, it's just doing that conversion in memory. It's not actually converting the variable. So this will result in a double. And then if it tries to store the double in the int, it says, I don't want to do that because that's going to result in a loss of information. The way to get it around that, say you didn't want to do it times equals, but this was some other variable, right? Java hints as to what you might do to fix it, right? So if I just hover my cursor over here, it says, do I want to add a cast? Yeah. What this does is it'll automatically add these parentheses. And that's important because you don't want to cast the int to an int and then multiply it by a double, because you end up with the problem that you started with. You want to do the multiplication first, so you surround this in parentheses, and then convert it to an int. And this says, yeah, Java, I really want to throw away that decimal point. And so this has exactly the same effect as this original. Okay? Now with lighten, a lot of you, nearly all of you, made a bunch of for loop stuff, right? And so you got the hint where I said, you know, invert it, then darken it, and then invert it again. It's a little easier than doing all these for loops, though. Whoops. I don't want to delete the wrong stuff. You've already written this code, right? So rather than copy pasting the code and then if you find a bug, having to fix the same bug in multiple places, inside of the lighten method you can just say, all right, I wanted to invert the image, and then I wanted to, whoops, I must have spelled it wrong. This dot invert colors, okay. And then darken it. And then invert the colors again. Done. 3 lines of code. You didn't need all the for loops. And so it's a lot easier than what a lot of you made it. But you get full points if you make it work, even if you didn't do it the easy way. So, so that's that. Although I would note that this is much less efficient. I'm going to Control Z. You can do it with a single for loop without inverting. So doing that inversion, darkening, and then inverting again, it's the easy way. You don't have to think a whole lot. But it's really not the most efficient way because it does go through every pixel 3 times. If you wanted to do it just in a single for loop, you could split out the red, green, and blue. And then to lighten, you could say something like, and some of you did, 255. Hang on a second, I got to think about this. Well, invert it. So if I say 255 minus R, multiply, darken that a little bit, multiply that by something slightly less than 1, and then invert it again. Okay? And you do this kind of thing for the red, green, and blue. This has exactly the same effect as the other 2 methods that we saw before. Could this be simplified? Maybe. Maybe you could distribute the multiplication and then do some algebra to simplify this expression. Possibly. I don't want to think about it right now. That's too much thinking for me. This works. Except that it's complaining what? It says add a cast. Okay. I'm going to add the cast. And so that should take care of invert, lighten, and darken. Hope you watched the videos. Hope you learned something. Keep trying things. A lot of you had some very creative stuff. I'm not going to make a long video with that. Share it with each other. If you do something that you think that you're proud of, go ahead and see if you can post it online somehow. Or if you want to share it, let me know, and I'll see if I can show you how to share it with people. All right. Thank you. Enjoy your vacation.